And what about your bowling career here at the high?
It was actually very exciting. My freshman year was probably one of my most favorite, memorable at least. I was with Brandon Bonamico, former graduate. He's actually assistant coach now for the bowling team. And we bowled with him. We had very fun times. I actually beat him. I actually broke the record, and yeah, it was interesting because it was against one of our rival schools, PW, and then it was interesting to see a freshman break a school record. You don't really see that very often, so it was very fun. And then sophomore and junior year, we were kind of like in a slump. We didn't really have the productivity that we had our freshman year, so it was a little rough. It was almost like a rebuilding process. What the Sixers are going through right now. Trust the process. But yeah, my senior year, this year, it was actually very interesting. I know now that we moved to the Pac-10, our school moved to the Pac-10, they don't have bowling. So really all of our matches, they counted, but not really. So it was very interesting, but the teams that we bowled, we actually competed with. So we really, if we stayed in Suburban 1, I'm not, this is just an if, we probably would have been contending for the championship. But yeah, then I also broke the record again, so I'm not really worried about that. But I'm happy that the team really found, what they needed to do, and I'm glad that we kind of improved our senior year.
So what do you think will happen next year without you here?
I don't know. I was planning on coming back probably because, I'm only going to be like a part-time college student, so if my classes are the way that I want them to be, I'm hoping to come back to coach, the other kids. But I think, under the wings of Mrs. Johnson and Mr. Donono, I think they'll be okay. I think they can compete against most of the teams. I think they'll be fine.
You have faith in your team.
I do have faith, yes.
So I heard that you're in the gifted program, and I know that they did these Norristown talks. They were like TED Talks?
Yeah, they were sort of like a TED Talk. It was pretty much like our senior presentation, but we kind of didn't want to, act like we had to do it. It was more as if we wanted to do it. So pretty much we were told to base it around a certain topic, which was passion. And, for me, my passion, it was like when I was really young, my passion was bowling. I really wanted to be like a professional bowler. I was really set on that. It's either that or a priest, but I don't want to talk about that. No. Yeah, professional bowling was really like my passion. So, but it kind of faded away because I kind of wanted to be well-rounded. I didn't want to really focus on one thing, and I didn't really want to be known for just that. So, we went through this whole process, and we had to write speeches and stuff like that. He had to monitor everything, so make sure that we're saying the right things and not saying anything too, vulgar or anything like that. So we, we pretty much made it happen. We did it in the auditorium, invited everybody. Not everybody showed up, but we got a good crowd. It was pretty interesting, and we heard stories that I probably wouldn't have heard if they didn't have the TED Talk, well, Norristown Talk, not TED Talk. But yeah, it was a very fun experience, being up on that stage once again, and I was a Mr. Norristown, so that, that kind of helped me to, give this, speech. It wasn't really a speech, it was more of me talking to the audience, but yeah, I liked just, being able to share my ideas about how I feel and how I feel that, because my talk was pretty much based on bowling and how it faded away because, societal pressures and stuff like that, just stuff in my own head, and I was just like, don't let anybody faze you. Just go with what you want. Do what you want to do, do what you love, and then that was pretty much the basis of my whole talk.
Yeah, that sounds so interesting. Can you give us some of your speech?
I don't know if I remember it. Pretty much, I talked about what we already talked about when I started bowling, when I was really young. Yeah, I talked about how bowling's sort of in my blood, because my bowling really started with it could have started with my great grandparents. I don't even know, But like, I know my grandparents bowled. My grandfather was really involved in the bowling community. He was, he started out just like me when I started working there. He was, pretty much like a maintenance, like cleaning guy. We call them a porter, but they pretty much just clean. And then he, became a mechanic, and then eventually he managed a bowling alley. So, I was going to follow in those footsteps, but I've chosen to, stray away from that, But, yeah, we talked about how, my parents bowl, my sister and I bowl. I have aunt and uncles that bowl. So it's, it started very young, and I knew that I wanted to do it. And then I talked about how, how bowling sort of became a stress rather than, a love, because, I was facing some difficulties in school. People used to laugh at me, because freshman year I broke the record, and then they'd be like, oh, well, it's just bowling, it doesn't matter. So I was like, well, I guess they're right. I kind of, believed them, when really I should have just, stayed with what I was doing, because I would have been going to like a D1 school like Wichita State in Kansas, but I'm not even worried about that. It's Kansas. It's in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, like, it was just, and I wanted to make sure that people shouldn't, have to, conform to what other people tell them to do. I just wanted to make sure that, they should do what they want to do what they love to do. And if that's what they want to do, so be it. Let them. I'm not going to, if my opinion thinks otherwise, I'm not going to care. It's whatever. It's what they want to do. So, because I've been in that situation many times, especially with golf, because no one really, thinks golf's a sport either, but, I'd like to see them do it.
You tell them. Great advice from Dylan Copestick. All right, now, you're being pretty humble here, Dylan, but let's hear about those accomplishments. Let's hear about those records.
The records. Freshman year was probably like, I feel like freshman year was the most exciting, and senior year was like, when I broke those records, it was more like very stressful, because it was kind of a lot. Like, people would, expect that from me. So freshman year, we were bowling PW, a rival school, and it wasn't close, but it was very good to like rub it in. So pretty much we were bowling, and I wasn't really worried about breaking records, because really I didn't even know that we had a record. I didn't know there was a record. And then I'm bowling, I shoot like 270 or something. Or no, I don't even shoot 270. I didn't even shoot 270 that day. I shot like 259 and like a 256 and a 246. So I ended up shooting like a 759. Yeah, 759 was what I shot freshman year. And, Brandon, he's the assistant coach now. He was like, Dylan, I think that's a record. He's like, I'm like, no, that can't be. It's not. It wasn't that high for me that I thought it was a record. Like, yeah, it was an accomplishment because it was my highest series, but I really didn't think that it was going to be, lower than that. So I was like really doubtful that I broke a record. And my coach was like, yeah, I'm going to have to look at it. And then next morning, Mr. Elias walks in the door with a newspaper laminated for me. I'm like, what's this? He's like, you made front page. I'm like, what do you mean I made front page? He's like, you broke the record. I'm like, oh, that's interesting, I didn't really think that I broke it, but I was just really in the moment going against PW, so I was kind of like really focused. But senior year, I broke 2 records actually. I broke high average, but that was all year, so I really didn't care about that. I didn't think I was going to break it, but it was kind of, whatever. But I then broke the series record again. Now, I'm not even going to lie, I forget the school we were going against. It was a very big blur, but I do remember I shot 806, which is like very, most people can bowl 300s. I haven't, but like, so I haven't bowled a 300 yet, but 800s are way more difficult because it's over 3 games. You have to be able to, be consistent with where you throw the ball. So me shooting that 800, I was like, geez, I didn't think I could actually do that. But knowing that, like, because I'm fairly well at math, like, so I add up the scores before, like, if I'm in like the 6th frame of the game, I'm adding up the score to see what I can get. So after the second game, I was like, I can really do this.
You are on the PA right now. Sorry.
I was like, I can really do this. So thinking like, I was just started adding up scores. I was like at 530, and I was like, that's not too far away. And then I started striking, and I get to like 8 strikes in a row, and I'm like, oh geez, I'm really getting close. So then I continued to bowl, and in the 10th frame, the first ball I missed. I didn't get a strike, which I was like, it's not terrible, you know. I mean, I'm still okay with it, but I thought I lost the 800. I was like, there's no way I'm coming back from that. Make the spare. I look up, and then I just hear my sister, because my sister was there already. She comes like 1 or 2 a year, and she came, and she was like, she called my mom, and all I hear is her. I'm like looking at the pins because I'm like so angry at myself because I'm like, there's no way I did it. So I'm like freaking out. Like I'm not like throwing stuff, but I know in my mind, like, if somebody says something to me, I'm going to freak out. But then all I hear is my sister yell, you got it, kid. And I'm like, I look up, and I'm like, oh, I already got hit 100. So I was like, pretty much all I had to do was keep it on the lane for the last ball, and I had my 800 series, which is kind of great because Mrs. Johnson actually sent it into the USBC. It's the United States Bowling Congress. So when she sent it in, I actually got like a little, crystal bowling ball with the series on it. So it was very stressful, but also at the same time very like amazing experience.
That's great. So you said that you're gonna, like, that's not what you're pursuing as a career. So what is the future of bowling for you?
Oh, future of bowling. Well, I'm playing golf at Widener now, and I'm really straying away from bowling, because I can't really bowl in adult leagues. Like, I can't take any prize money because then I couldn't play golf in college. So right now I'm like on the brink of deciding whether or not I want to continue bowling. Not like forever, but like take a break for right now. So yeah, right now I'm deciding whether or not I want to take a break for a couple years, just get my feet underneath myself. And I'm gonna miss bowling, but I'm not really gonna miss it. Like it's not something I can't live without.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not really worried about it. I think the people that I bowl with, I think I'm still going to hang out with them, but they're going to be mad at me because I won't bowl with them. Like Brandon, because I bowl with him like every other week. So I feel like if I just say, well, we can go to PJ's once in a while. We don't have to bowl all the time. He's like, what's the point? So, but yeah, I mean, bowling was like my first love. So I kind of like, I'm going to miss it a lot, but I need to take a break from it. I've been bowling for almost 15 years now. It's not getting old, but it's getting there,
Yeah, I get that. All right, so you're not pursuing bowling, but what about golf?
I actually am pursuing golf. I'm not trying to go professional because that's ridiculously too much work. I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's too much work. No, really with golf, I started playing freshman year, and I love playing golf because it's just relaxing. People think that it's boring because it does take a lot. It takes like 4 hours to play 18 holes, but it's relaxing because if you hit a bad shot, oh well, you get 5 minutes till you walk to your next shot. So it's like you can always cool your mind off. It's not something that you have to really be stressed about. And so now I'm playing at Widener. The coach, talked to me over the summer and, talked to me over the winter too. So he pretty much talked to me for like a whole year. And we talked about he wants me to just come in, because it's a D3, so it's not like all my time's going to be focused on golf. So right now it's pretty much just, having fun at this point. I mean, there's definitely other freshmen that I'm probably going to have to compete with, to earn a spot on the team. But, I mean, if they beat me out, I can still always go play with my dad or something like that. I'm not going to worry about it. But, yeah, I really think that playing golf at Widener, though, is going to help me out, pretty much, make friends going into college. And, so it's not terrible. But I like the idea of playing a sport in college because I always like to be competitive. But with golf, it's like you're only playing yourself. So you can't really focus on what everybody else is doing. You got to focus on yourself. Because if you start making mistakes, you can't rely on others to make your opponent to make mistakes. So yeah, I think pursuing golf was probably a better idea than pursuing bowling. 'Cause bowling right now is so competitive. You know, it doesn't sound it, but it is. Like Midwest, ridiculous. This kid's averaging like 250 at a freshman. It was like ridiculous.
So you're going to school for math, and then what do you plan to do with that?
I actually want to. Now, this is what I want to do. It's probably not gonna happen for a little bit, but I wanted to come back to Norristown to teach. Now, I don't know what I want to teach yet, but you know, math related. So, but really, that's what I want to be. I want to be a teacher. I want to be able to not really give back to the community, but to enlighten younger minds. You know what I mean? So, I really want to focus on high school, but if I start out in middle school, that's perfectly fine with me too. I'm not going to be angry about it, but you know, my ideal setting to teach is high school because I'm so, you know, this high school has really become like my family, so I'm kind of used to this setting. I've fallen in love with this setting, so it's like I really want to come back to teach here, but if I teach in middle school or any other, it doesn't matter. I really just want to teach here in this school district. I don't want to go anywhere else but here. But yeah, that's pretty much what I want to do with math.
Was there a teacher that pushed you to become a teacher?
Yeah, actually, there's a few that kind of pushed. They didn't really push me, but they kind of like, you know, paved the way for like my mind to decide. And they actually weren't like, I think a couple of them weren't even math teachers. Like Miss Belinsky, she's a wonderful teacher, and I've had her 2 years now, and she's just been the type of teacher that like, you know, everyone's like I've asked for so long. So like she's really like helped me out so much, and I think that's what kind of like that's the kind of teacher I want to be. And you know, Mr. Irvine, you know, I've actually grown up with him. Not like grown up, but like he was friends with my other friend's neighbor. So like we'd play wiffle ball and I'd be like 8 years old. But like he'd know my sister, so him and I go way back. And I had him my sophomore year, and I didn't really think that I wanted to be a teacher, but then like realizing how much fun you can have with the students, just teaching them, and you know, making sure that they can get excited about learning, because I know my freshman year, I wasn't excited about learning at all, and you know, they kind of really changed my mind about it, and I think that's what I want to do. I want to make sure that people want to learn rather than just to come here, so.
So what about your other passions? You play baseball, I hear.
Yeah, I play baseball. Yeah, I started playing baseball when I was like 6. Like, I played t-ball. My dad brought me up, so he coached me for a little bit. And then, I came here, and freshman year, our original coach, Mr. Elsier, he actually quit before the season started. So then Mr. Campbell, he became our varsity coach. And so that was fun. Freshman year was kind of like, you know, just me getting involved with high school baseball. So I started off on the freshman team with Mr. Bankus, who is no longer here at the school, I don't think. I don't know. But yeah, and then sophomore year, I just strictly played JV. Mr. Forrest was the coach. So that was, you know, fun. And then junior year I actually went back and forth. So like I started off the year I started off the year on varsity, which is very surprising because I didn't think, I'm a decent baseball player, but I didn't think I was like good enough, to like play on varsity. And they started me as a DH, which is a designated hitter, which we usually hit for like, in MLB, they usually hit for like the pitcher, but DHs in high school usually just hit for the kid who has the lowest average. So junior year was like a really like making year for me. So we played Upper Dublin, and they were the best team, well, like if not like one of the best. And I actually went 2 for 3 that game with an RBI. And it was like, we seriously had the game in our hands, and then it fell right through. But it was like, that's when I kind of like found the confidence to play varsity baseball. And then eventually I went back down to JV, but that's not my decision. But yeah, so, and then this year, you know, we have a whole new coaching staff from Phoenixville. It was rough, but I'm glad that towards the end of the season it started to work out to the way that they wanted, because I think it was a huge adjustment, you know, switching coaches. We also didn't get to see the coaches at all during the offseason, like maybe 2 weeks before the season started. So we couldn't really get a feel for what they wanted to do with the program. And I think that some of the kids didn't really, you know, buy in right away. And that's what kind of sort of held us back. But towards the end of the year, we actually started playing like a team, started actually playing baseball. And we actually won our last game, even though we lost the other 18 or 19 games.
Earlier, you mentioned that you were in Mr. Norristown. Can you talk about that a little bit?
That's an experience that's like, you can't describe it. You know, going through the whole process of Mr. Norristown was very tiring, but as soon as the day showed up, as soon as the night was there, it was like, I can't wait. Like the opening dance, we ran it every single practice, which started to get annoying. But like at the same time, like the first time we ran it, it was so bad. So like you knew we needed to practice, but like at the same time, it's like, do we need to do it every day? But I'm glad that we did it every day, because I probably would have forgot how to do the dance. But yeah, we worked extremely hard, and especially, you know, Craig Lacey, you know, Thaddeus, PA, we all worked extremely hard to like put on a show for the audience. And also, it wasn't as stressful as I thought it was going to be. Like because I'm not really good at like being on stage, but going on stage and just, you know, letting loose and just having fun, that's pretty much what it was all about. You know, it kind of, I wouldn't consider myself as an eccentric person, but when I was doing, because I did Vanilla Ice, so it was like I had to be eccentric. So it kind of brought out like a new persona for me. Not really, but you know what I mean. Like it's just something that it's undescribable. It was so amazing. The audience went so along with everything. You know, they were putting up like flashlights for Eric Henry when he was playing the saxophone. They were yelling back at Mike Berkowitz when he was yelling "roar" 50 times. And they just loved all of the talents, and I'm glad that they did, because we put in so much hard work and effort for those 2 or 3 weeks that we did it. And you know, when you had to think about if you're doing a dance routine, what moves you're doing, who you're doing it with, there was a lot of planning to go through, and I'm glad that we, you know, went through it. And I'm glad that I actually participated in Mr. Norristown, because, you know, I really thought that I really planned on doing it, like sophomore and junior year, but you know, senior year I didn't really think so. But yeah.
All right, this has been a great talk with Dylan Copestick. Thank you for being here.